Hi, I'm Shain, a New York Jewish mom, young in spirit, but with decades, so many decades of experience.
And I'm Sarah, her daughter, and a practicing therapist. And this is Listen to My Mother.
A podcast where we answer your real life questions with 2 points of view, one rooted in motherly instinct, and
one rooted in clinical training.
You'll get guidance, support, maybe a little tough love, but always from the heart.
And if you'd like us to answer your question on air, head to the link in our show notes and send it our way. We want to hear any questions you have.
And now it's time to
Listen to My Mother. Happy Mother's Day. We're recording on Mother's Day. This episode will come out several weeks after Mother's Day, but I'm looking at your face, and it is the morning time for me, afternoon time for you on the East Coast, on Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day.
So far, it's been an interesting Mother's Day. As we've spoken about before, 6 months ago, I had back surgery. And then I had 3 months of inactivity, and then the last 3 months of physical therapy. And it's pretty hard trying to get back into shape because with a fusion in my back, my mechanics are different. But today, on Mother's Day, I figured I'll teach a yoga class at the studio. I don't know if we've mentioned before that I have a yoga studio. So I decided, here we are 6 months after surgery. The woman that normally teaches on Sunday, because it's Mother's Day, she asked for the day off, and I figured normally I would cancel, but here I am. So let's give it a shot. Sundays are very slow days. Usually maybe there's 2 people. If it's a great, 3 people. So I figured Mother's Day, if one person shows up, that's great, because they'll be my guinea pig, and we'll see how I fare on Mother's Day. You know,
just to clarify, this is your first class that you're teaching since your surgery?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I am not in shape really yet. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping to get there, but not yet for sure. So I figured if one person shows up, great. 2 people, a bonus. 5 people showed up. I had a great time. First time I've moved quite as much in doing it. There were some things I didn't even try. I just tell them to do. And I love the fact that I tell people to do stuff and they just do it. I don't know. I guess the seat of the teacher has a lot of authority that comes along with it. But I had a great time. But that's what I did this morning. That's how my Mother's Day started. And you are my first child to tell me Happy Mother's Day, though I did send out, stuff to my 2 mothers in my family, my daughter and my daughter-in-law. I didn't send one to you because I don't really care that you're the mother of 2 dogs.
Yeah, I got a text from a friend that said Happy Dog Mom Day. And my Mother's Day started with cleaning up my dog's puke off the floor. He threw up on the rug, so that was super, super fun.
That's part of being a mother. I guess I should have sent you a Mother's Day greeting.
I have 2 children that rely on me. One, my firstborn, is a perfect angel, and then my baby is an absolute menace to society.
Well, every family has to have at least one of each, so there you go.
Who's the menace in our family?
Me.
All right, who's the angel child in our family?
There are none. I'm sorry. I misspoke. There are none. But moving on from that, that was my Mother's Day morning, and I'm looking forward to a really nice day. It's beautiful. The weather's gorgeous. It's lovely. The other night, you called me, and we were talking, and you told me you were heading out for a date. So without being too intrusive, I hope, how'd it go?
It was good. It was interesting. So I generally don't date. I will go on one date, be like, this was so painful, and then not go on another date for 6 months. And then I'll go on a date and be like, this was so painful, and then not go on another date for 6 months. And I get really bored with dating I've been single for a really long time. Um, but this past week, like something weird happened, and I went on 4 dates with 4 different people, and they were all fun. Um, so there's something happening in the cosmos, I think. But something that I noticed, I think I've mentioned before on here that I had like a really toxic partner in the past. Um, Last summer, I was dating someone for a little bit, like 2 months, I think. That so I've had two very significant relationships in my past. The really toxic one, and then one really good one that just really didn't work because of the timing. And timing is like 99% of what makes a relationship work. Um, so it was all positive, like all wonderful. We just couldn't get the timing right. So this guy that I was dating last summer, like the first half of the relationship reminded me of the really wonderful relationship, and then the second half reminded me of the really toxic relationship. And when it ended, I was joking with my therapist about how um I like it was like a roundup of my greatest hits, and now I'm like that was closing of a chapter and I'm moving into a different era in my life. I didn't know what that meant. But what I've noticed, because that really like all wrapped up in December, January, what I've noticed in the last few months, so historically, I have never been attracted to Jewish men. I don't know what it is. It's just, I've never dated a Jew. I have actually been on a date with someone and was like, something about you is rubbing me the wrong way. And then I found out halfway through the date that he was Jewish. I'm like, oh, you have the thing, whatever the thing is that has made me like not really attracted to Jewish men in the past. You have that thing. I don't know what it is. One of my friends who's also Jewish, like she, like her theory is that it's like the American Ashkenazi Jewish like stereotype of like the Nebuchadnezzar, like what's his name? Woody Allen, like
Oh,
that whole like thing, which I that gives me like such an ick. Um, which I don't know that it's specifically that. I think it's a little bit more like vague than that, but there's something there. I don't know. I've never really been attracted to Jews, but since this relationship ended in like December, January, and I was like, that was the roundup of my greatest hits, and that's a closing of a chapter, and I'm moving into something different. Every single man that I have been attracted to has been Jewish. So something different is happening. Something new is happening in my life right now. Um, but of the 4 dates that I went on this past week, only one of them was Jewish. But it was the best date. So I don't know what that means. Anyway, we'll see what happens.
so I find that so interesting because I dated a gazillion guys before I got married. I started dating, I was very young because that was the idea. You had to find a mate, you had to, get married, have children. That was, your goal in life. So but I found myself only attracted to Jewish men, but they had to be Jewish men who were fit. Your dad was a hunk, really a hunk with six pack abs and muscles and strong, and he still is. He's still a really attract. And people keep telling him he's attractive while I'm standing there going, I'm right here.
So that what does that matter? That was actually on one of the dates that I had. We had like a long conversation because the guy was telling me about how in his last relationship, like his girlfriend would like flirt with people and like it made him really uncomfortable, and like he's like I wouldn't say that I was controlling, but like definitely like possessive. Like I like don't like when my girlfriend like flirts with other people. I'm like, we're not gonna work out that. But I'm like, that means literally like I have zero problem if my partner is flirting with someone right in front of me. Like that doesn't bother me. I know you're coming home with me. Flirting means nothing. Flirting's fun. I flirt with people all the
I
time. Like
flirt. I flirt all the time.
right, it means nothing and it's so much fun, and like and then I end up having dinner with my best friend like later that night and with Vince, and we were talking about like there, like he like pulled up this document he had found. There's like 6 different types of attraction. Um and we were like talking about I think like let's see if I can remember the 6 off the top of my head. Aesthetic, emotional, physical, which is not the same thing as sexual. Um so sexual is number 4. romantic, and intellectual. And those are the 6 types of attraction according to this list. And I was saying, like, I don't know that there is any type of attraction on this list that if my partner was having that attraction towards someone else, I would have a problem with it. I don't like, I think it's natural and human nature to be attracted to other people throughout your life. I think it's probably impossible and like unsustainable to insist that you must only be attracted to your partner in every way for the rest of time. Where it becomes a problem is if you act on that attraction without prior communication about it.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is like if you're in a monogamous relationship, you just don't act on the attraction. If you're in a non-monogamous relationship, you act on the attraction within the rules that you have set for your relationship.
But that's what sex dreams are for. So you can have that relationship with someone else and it isn't in real time.
But there's also people who think that having a sex dream about someone else is cheating. It's like you actually can't control your dreams, and being attracted to other people is totally normal. Like, just relax.
Oh, I think sex dreams are really fun.
Yeah, okay. This was actually funny. Two of the Jewish guys that I've been attracted to in the last 5 months look kind of similar. And I was talking to some of my friends about this, and one of them I could not see myself dating at all, but I was like, I could have sex with this man. I'm like, I could see that happening, but like, I'm not at all, like, I would not have a relationship with him. And then the other one, I was like, I could have a relationship with that guy, like, but I cannot imagine myself having sex with him. Like, cannot, like, I've actively tried to visualize it, and my brain has a block. I cannot go there. I was talking to my friends about this, and one of them was like, maybe you can just like have a threesome with them. And I was like, well, my mom would be thrilled because they're both Jewish. And then
I would not be thrilled about a threesome. It goes a little far for me. It goes a little far for me. It's your business. It's your life. Don't tell me.
Well, okay. Well, they were like, well, you should talk about it on the podcast. I was like, okay, I'll bring it to the podcast. But what? Oh, hold on. Let's go back though. What is your opposition to threesomes?
I probably should not speak to this until I really think about it, because my first reaction is to say something that, as it comes out of my mouth, I know I'm not going to like what I'm saying. So.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to this. Maybe next episode we'll start with, so have you thought more about threesomes? Okay. But in the meantime, as a Mother's Day miracle, we actually have a submission this week. So it's not just us talking for an hour.
We do. So I will read the submission, but I'm going to say in advance, I'm going to read the first sentence, and then I had to look up a term. So I want to share what the term means before I continue. So this is a submission from Nurse D, initial D period. All right. I am a healthy, fit, 73-year-old nurse. I have a retirement job that has me teaching an NCLEX 3-day course to help them become RNs, help them pass the test. So I'm going to break away from the submission for a minute. The NCLEX is the National Council Licensure Examination, which is a standardized test like an SAT or something like that, an exam that nursing graduates in the United States and Canada must pass to become a licensed registered nurse, an RN, or a licensed practical nurse, an LPN. It's a critical step in the licensure process, ensuring that new nurses have the necessary knowledge and skills to provide safe and effective patient care. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure we know what we're talking about. So we're back to this healthy 73-year-old nurse who is giving this course, all right? And to continue, she says, I am still traveling and teaching and love it. But as I get older, I am not as confident as I have been in the past. Words sometimes just not accessible. I teach large classes, sometimes 150 students. I fly to somewhere, get the rental car, find the hotel, and go to the school and teach the 3 day, 6 hours a day course. Still getting good evaluations, but feel less than, less confident. I decided to teach locally, but now I'm away in Philadelphia teaching. I wanted to prove that I can still do it. I guess I need validation that I can still do it. When I am teaching and a word is just not coming into my brain, I told the class, these large class, that, quote, sometimes when you are older, a word just does not come to you. If you see me looking for the word or acting it out, like incision, which I could not access, so I drew my hand across my abdomen, then I ask them to help me when I can't say the word, so I will know that they are listening and I won't feel foolish. That worked for a while. I still don't like that I am not as confident. So that is Nurse D's submission. And being a 73-year-old at that stage where, words haven't come for probably more than a decade, you find, or longer, that suddenly you're looking for a word that just doesn't come.
Do you want to remind the audience real quick how old you are?
Oh, I'm a very, very thoughtful, mindful, youthful 78.
Yeah, there you go.
And words haven't come easily for decades. Where you're
Well, I'm
just hunting.
32, and I had a thing that happened in a meeting on Friday where I completely lost a word. I was like stumbling over it in this meeting, and I was like, it's like the order of events. I don't know. We're just gonna go with order of events. And then someone wrote in the chat was like, "Do you mean protocol?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do mean protocol. Thank you."
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot, but we're talking
and
about...
actually, I feel like I need to pause real quick because that person
Yeah.
will probably listen to this, and I just want to be clear that the tone that I just said it in made it sound like I wasn't grateful for her. I was very grateful for her.
Okay. We are when people fulfill that word for us. Otherwise, we'll stumble and mumble for minutes looking
Right,
for
and
the word.
it's like a psychic ESP thing. Like you are in my brain finding the word for me, and I'm very appreciative of that.
Right. Before we go back to the submission, as we get stuck on the word thing, I'll try to act it out. Like she's saying, she tries to act it out. Maybe somebody will give her the word. When I do something like that and they're throwing the wrong words at me, it's like, no, that doesn't help. That doesn't help. Give me the right word I'm looking for. So,
And in the past, actually, in previous episodes, we've cut moments where we can't find the words, but maybe specifically in this episode, if we can't find the words, we leave it in.
Right. We'll just stumble along as we go.
That's normal. That's really normal.
But it's a very different experience when you're just conversing with friends and can't come up with, the word, the word where you lay out a cloth on it, you put plates on it, and people sit there. What's the word for the thing? And you can't come up with the word table. It happens even in the simplest times, but you're standing in front of 150 students. Mm-hmm. And this is something, you're in a different zone when you're teaching.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So you're in the spotlight. You're the one presenting, and I can see if you can't come up the word, you're the person in authority. Like I was saying, the seat of the teacher. You're the one expected to do this. So when you can't come up with it, there is a sense, I can understand completely, there's a sense that you're failing somehow. You've lost your mind, and so you turn it into a joke. You have to have the ability, and it sounds like she does. She says to the students, if you see me looking for the word, I'm acting it out, give me the word. and turns it into something where she engages the class to help her out. And that's how you kind of get through it. But she adds on here, she can say to them, if you give me the word, I know you're listening, kind of thing. But she does that so she doesn't, and she put in quotes, feel foolish. Because as the teacher, as the person up there, you would feel. So the loss of a word here and there, that's normal. It's just really highlighted in this situation that you're not at the top of your game. And then you start to feel, as she says, less confident. If she's losing more words, not just one in a class, but more words than that, you would start to feel less confident. And she says she decided to teach locally, which I'm assuming that since she's getting older and feeling a little less confident, she doesn't want to stress herself out with all this travel and getting somewhere and dealing with a hotel and dealing with all of that, being away from home. So she says, I decided to teach locally, but I am, as she put the submission in, I am away in Philadelphia. So she's not local to Philadelphia. Teaching, I wanted to prove that I can still do it. I guess I need validation that I can still do it. So what Nurse D is looking for here is tell me I'm still great. I know I'm great. So tell me I am, even though I seem to be fading. And the reality is, from my perspective, as we get older, and we're in our 70s, she's 73, I'm 78, as we get older, that kind of travel and stress and energy output it's not just exhausting, it's exhausting. It's very hard to keep that level up as much as our brains want to think we're still youthful. Every morning I look in the mirror and I'm surprised. Who the hell is that old lady? That's not the person I woke up as. I look in the mirror and there's a reality check that, oh yeah, I think I gained age 30 years from when I got out of bed till I looked in the mirror. But there has to be a realization, and she's had it. I decided to teach locally. She's had it that she understands she can only expend so much before. We don't have the reserves of energy that we once had. But the idea that we're can do less doesn't mean we are less. Because one of the things she says here is, I still get good evaluations, but feel less confident. My sense is, from what I'm hearing here, is that once she stops trying to prove herself in all this excess energy that used to be easy and is no longer easy, if she brings her teaching back locally to places that she could get to easily and maybe even sleep in her own bed, that level of confidence will come back, because obviously she has been doing a great job. She's just getting older, and it's asking a lot of her to do something with so much of an output of energy that once she gets rid of the travel and the hotels and maybe the boredom of not being able to talk to whatever, she's stuck in a hotel, her confidence most likely will come back shining. The other piece that dawned on me was this is a course that it sounds like she doesn't say how long she's been doing this, but my sense is she's been doing it for a while, since she retired. She's 73 years old, and this is a retirement job, so she's probably been doing it for a number of years. I don't know the test. I don't know the curriculum, that she teaches, but I would guess that it's the same curriculum over and over and over again to prepare people for the boards, the nursing boards. So at the beginning, and you're going and you're meeting new people and you're traveling and you're the superstar. You're up there in the front of the room talking to 150 people, and you're amazing. You're smart and you're presenting, and then as time goes on, you're teaching the same thing over and over. You're getting a little bored with it. You're getting tired of the traveling. So you're feeling you're less than you were. But that doesn't mean you're less than. It's just maybe time to, as she's doing, change it up, stay local, do your thing. It's a great retirement job if you're not schlepping all over the country. It's a great thing to be doing for yourself. And I think once all that excess energy is out, the confidence will come back. So that's my thoughts on this. Where'd you go? What do you think?
So I have a lot of thoughts. I want to start with kind of thinking like yes, I don't know what it feels like to be at the front of a classroom. Well, I mean, I do know. I used to teach and I hated it. But like I don't know exactly what this experience is to be in the front of the classroom of 150 people where like their career is kind of riding on you to be able to effectively teach them this material. Um and that like yeah, like the spotlight is on you. That is really stressful, and I don't know exactly that experience, but I can relate to the experience of like kind of being in this authority position with people looking at you. Like when I'm in session with clients, especially with when I'm working with couples who are coming to me to fix their marriage, and it's like the future of your marriage is in my hands, which isn't actually true, but that's a different tangent. But like that's the feeling, is like you are coming to me because the future of your marriage is in my hands. And if I can't find a word, which happens to me all the time, or if I completely forget, like I will lose thoughts. I was like, I'll have a question for a client and lose it immediately if I don't write it down. And I will name that to clients, but like there's definitely this kind of feeling of just like, oh, are they looking at me right now thinking like this person that we have come to save our marriage is an idiot because she can't remember what such a simple phrase or word or whatever. Um, and what I've noticed in myself, and I'm curious if this is also happening for Nurse D, is like there's this dominant narrative that that we're like just losing words, we're coming off as idiots to our clients, to our students, whatever. And that becomes like we focus in on the times that we lost the words, and that becomes like, well, this is what is happening, and completely block out the moments that we nail it. And like you're probably getting the words and saying the right thing and coming across as very knowledgeable because you are and you know your shit, and like that is happening significantly more often than the losing of the words. But we hyper focus on the negatives, and that becomes the dominant narrative. Um so that is one of the things that I was thinking.
Oh, I agree with. Oh, I didn't think about it, but yes, I totally agree with you. We tend to see, we see the wrinkles on our face that nobody else can see. They don't. They're not. They're so interested in our wrinkles, but to us, they're major. Every little thing that's negative about us, we do. We highlight it for ourselves, and we make ourselves feel less than if we, it kind of comes to what we were talking about last week, last session, about our body image. We look in the mirror and say, oh my God, look how awful I look. And somebody else looks at us and says, you look so beautiful. They don't see what we see because we do. I agree with you. We see and feel more negative about ourselves than other people do.
The other thing that I was thinking about, and I'm not like a neuroscience expert, Um, but I did a little bit of research on like the effect of decreasing confidence on the brain. And from what I understand, not being a neurology expert, um, as confidence declines, there is like less engagement with your prefrontal cortex, um, which kind of like leads to this like vicious cycle, this like loop of like the less confident you feel, the less like cognitive stimulation you're having. So there's like cognitive decline,
Hmm.
which leads to losing more words and feeling less confident, which leads to further cognitive decline, which leads to like you're trapped in this vicious cycle. And I think that that's kind of where a lot of like recognizing like the negative self-talk and being able to challenge it and switch it to this like to recalibrating your dominant narrative to be the positive narrative helps increase the confidence that your brain responds to that, because otherwise you're trapped in this cycle of negative self-talk, which leads to further decline, which leads to further like decreasing in confidence and so on. I've watched it happen with you. I've watched it happen with dad. Like the older you get, like things are kind of like getting lost more. And I see it happen with other people as like aging happens. That is super normal. And there was the question of like, can I still do this? And I think it's pretty clear. Like, yes, you can. You are. And it sounds like, you're still getting great evaluation. So it's like you're doing it well. People are like receptive to what you are presenting. So I think it's part of it is just kind of like recognizing like I'm in the right place for where I am in my life. This is a normal experience for me. And just normalizing what that is, that it is not indicative of anything else besides where you are in your life. Like it's not indicative of you're getting bad at this. It's not indicative of like you're shouldn't be doing it anymore. Like that's not what it means. It just means like, yeah, I'm at that point in my life and this is what happens, and I still know my shit and I still know what I'm doing and I'm still helping people learn this material.
Very much so. Yeah, I think back. Why did I, 22 years ago, I think? Well, I took over the studio in 2002. You do the math. How many years ago? That's 23 years ago. I took
Mm-hmm.
over the studio. And one of the reasons I wanted the studio to continue, which is why I took it over, it was shutting down, was because I wanted to do the classes. And we're in a very remote area. There are a lot of yoga studios within 20, 30 minutes of where we are now, but they didn't exist back then, 22 years ago, 23. So keeping the studio going was the only way that I was going to be able to take classes. So, I became certified. I studied. I did. I'm still studying. I'm always studying. But it was so that I could take classes. So it's different than a lot of yoga teachers who don't do it along with their students. I did it along because that was my class too, to give to myself. And over time, for the past 20 whatever years, that was my motivation, was I do this along with the class. If I have to break out of the flow in order to work with someone, well, I do it, of course, because the people taking the class are more important about keeping them safe and doing things in a way that won't hurt them than it is for me to do the class. But my first motivation is I'm there to do the class and come along with me, and I'll make sure you're safe. Ever since this business started with the pain that I was having, that changed everything. The focus changed because I could no longer do, I could do a lot, but I couldn't do everything I was able to do before. I had to back out quite often, and it became all about my students. And I'm the bookkeeper for the studio. So over time, I'm less the participant, and I've become much more the teacher and the bookkeeper.
Mm.
You know, my role has changed, and as much as I can rail against it after the surgery and everything else, I don't know that I'll ever get back to where it was a class for me. I got older. My body changed. My circumstances changed. How do I want to go forward? And that's what we all have to do, I guess, as we get older, is recognize our limits, accept them. Accepting them is the hard part. That's like, okay, who am I now? Am I still the same person? Am I the one? Am I somebody that I recognize? And you know, if you're lucky enough to live long enough to get to that stage, you're doing fine.
So I was in this meeting a few weeks ago as a consultation with some other therapists, and the leader of the group asked us this question. It was like our closing question, where we had to finish the sentence. Um, if I was braver, I would. And we kind of had to think about like, okay, if I was braver, what is the thing that I would change in my life? And so that was our in our April meeting that we talked about that. We had our May meeting on Friday. That was when I was offered the word protocol, which is what I needed. Um, and a couple people mentioned that like that question has stayed with them the whole month between meetings. And it's kind of like this question of like what would I change in my life if I was brave enough to do it? And like what one of the people was talking about was just kind of like that question is framed for them of like, oh, what are the things that I'm doing out of like a sheer like just only out of responsibility and not because I actually want to do it or like to do it. And so I'm wondering like that just came to like as you're talking about that, like do you like doing like having the studio from the business side? Do you like that you don't get to be the participant? Like if you were braver, would you give up the business side just so you could be a participant? Or so you could just be a participant, I guess is probably the right way to say that.
I don't think the question, unfortunately, I don't think the question speaks to anything about my situation. I There isn't an either or with that. I can be a participant and still run the studio. I can do both. I've always done both simultaneously. It's being the participant that I have been restricted in.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always done the business side of it, and that to me, I do well. It's a different question. But if I was braver, I like that question. What would you do if you were braver? Um, I have to give that thought because I'm afraid of a lot of things, a lot of things. So I think I'll enjoy for myself asking myself that question of all the things I'm fearful about. What would I really like to change? What would I really like to be braver about? Good question. Have you thought about yours?
Yes, it didn't stick with me for the month the way that it did with a lot of other people in the group. I think because I already knew the thing that I wanted to change, which I was right on the verge of changing because I was getting so fed up. But then, like, the other people that I do it with, like, one person specifically came to me in a way that was, like, so, um, it held me in such an important way and it saw me and really, like, heard every single concern that I had with staying involved with this thing. And this person like handled it so well that I think I was telling you about this as it was all happening and you were like, so does this change your decision about leaving? And I was like, unfortunately, yes. Like that sucks.
So what would be braver? If you were brave, you would say I'm still quitting. Where does bravery
Yes.
come in here? Do you really want to quit?
Yes, I think I do. I just feel because right now there's only 3 of us who are doing this and then even the 3 is not enough. We need more people. And I don't feel like I can leave the other two people hanging, especially I really what it is I don't feel like I can leave the person who was like so receptive to my concerns. I don't feel like I can leave her hanging. I feel like I do have a responsibility and an obligation to stay in this position to like because we support each other with the difficulties of it.
Okay.
But I did when I did like kind of decide to stay, I put a lot more boundaries in place of what my participation will look like.
And you'll know in another month or 2 months if you can glide away.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully everything will get a lot easier so it won't feel like
So
such a drain.
is that bravery to is that bravery to step, I guess, to
Yeah, you know what would be bravery for you?
what?
Getting off the library board and giving up the Harbinger.
I know. I was
But it's
gonna
the same
say,
thing. It's
yeah,
the same. It's this. We both feel the same thing with this. Is like it feels like, well, if I don't do it, no one else will, and there is a sense of obligation and responsibility to these commitments.
I am actually making moves. A new person is coming on the board at the library who I will train to do
Mm.
the financials, which I have done for years. So that's in the works.
Okay,
That's
I'm
in the
very proud of you.
works.
See, you did something brave.
Well, I don't know if is that bravery. I'm not sure. It's I feel like like the financial part of the library and the projects that I do and all of that. I feel like it's my domain, and I'd be giving up my claim to something that also identifies me.
That's kind of the brave piece of it is because I feel similarly, but I'm like just because I feel a sense of like I don't know if like possessiveness is the right word, but like ownership. I feel ownership over the domain of work that I do, which makes me feel like I don't want to give it up because I do feel this ownership over it and doing it right and doing it well, but it doesn't actually I don't enjoy it. So does it matter that I feel ownership over it if it's not fulfilling in any way?
But I find for me, let's say I do the bookkeeping part of the studio. I run the I deal with all the the things that make a business run. I deal with all of it, and I do it well. So, I feel good about it. The same thing with the library. I do that piece very well. So is it bravery to give it up, or am I giving up something that feeds me in a way?
I feel the same way. Like the stuff that I do, I feel like I do it well. And when I pull it off, I feel very good about myself. And that's reinforcing of my abilities. But the lead up, the stress around making these things happen is not feeling super worth it anymore.
The thing is, you are 32 years old and you have the world open to you. And talk about bravery. I mean, you blow me away with the amount of travel around the world on your own, and you go and you come, and you've been in a gazillion countries. To me, this is awe inspiring because that is something that I do not have the courage to do what you do and just go off by myself. We're going, my sister and I are going, and you're going as well, but you would go anyway, to Denmark in August for my great nephew's bar mitzvah. And there is no way on God's earth that I would have gone by myself if my sister didn't push me to go, let's go together. We're flying on different planes, but we'll be there together and we'll do the whole thing. I wouldn't do it alone. You'll do it alone, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't. So to
Well,
me, it's
after Denmark, like you're going with your sister and then you're leaving together and then I'm going to Georgia and Azerbaijan by myself.
yes, you are, and your father's freaking out. Okay.
Oh, it'll be fine. It's well, the fact that I'm going to Israel in less than a week
Is
That's
also
what he should.
freaking him out.
Right. That's what he should be. That's more scary than Georgia and Azerbaijan.
Right. But in Israel you'll be safe. You'll be fine. We're all fine. Yes. That's how I have to think about it. You'll be
Yeah.
fine.
I go
Are
back
you at
and
all
forth on it.
nervous? Are you at all
Oh yeah.
nervous?
I really wasn't. I was really I even it being in an active war, I really wasn't nervous until last week. Like the group that I'm going with, they had these like former FBI agents who now work on like security in Israel or whatever. I don't even know exactly what they do, but they came in and they like gave us a talk on how to stay safe in Israel. And I was like, I travel, like you said, I've traveled all over. I think I've been to like 47 countries. I've done most of them by myself. There were tips that they're like, yeah, you should be doing this anytime you travel abroad. I'm like, that never would have occurred to me. I have never done that before in my life. Like, are they being like overly cautious or have I just been lucky? Like, I don't know.
What an example of something they told you that you
Oh,
didn't.
this was something. They told me that I should have a yellow card, which is like my vaccine history from birth, that I should have it on me at all times because if I'm in a country that gets evacuated, I can't choose what country they evacuate me to, and I need to be able to prove that I have the vaccines required for that country if I end up in a country that requires vaccines. I'm like, I don't even know where to get that kind of record. They're like, well, your
From
doctor.
your
I'm like,
mother.
do you have but do you have every vaccine I've ever had? Because there's been a point in my life where you're no longer tracking those things.
Well,
And they were telling me, they were like, we'll go to your doctor. I'm like, what doctor? I have moved so much. They're like, your pediatrician. I'm like, what pediatrician? I've had so many pediatricians. Like, what? This is not an easy thing to get. And they were talking like, yeah, everyone should just have it. So anyway, they gave us like a lot of stuff that was making me a little bit more nervous. And then with the airport and like when my flight got canceled, because Lufthansa extended their policy of canceling flights to Israel after the Tel Aviv airport was bombed. Basically, I do have concerns that the war is going to get worse, probably while I'm there. So I am getting more and more nervous. Anyway, this whole conversation about bravery, I'm also kind of just thinking, like, I want to loop it back to Nurse D and kind of like posing that question of if you were braver, what would you do? And I want to kind of let her think about it herself and just kind of like what that answer would be. So maybe like if you're listening, pause it and let it think about it. And then coming back in, what I would want to kind of like challenge you to change or to do is reshaping or just challenging yourself to let yourself accept where you are now. Accept yourself at where you are now instead of comparing yourself to previous versions of yourself. Because it sounds like you're the only one who sees where you are now as a problem.
Excellent. Yeah, good. I just want to bring up a quickie with you for that you had brought up in the last session about how I should think about how my children may have harmed me. And you say it as if you know how my children have harmed me. And I can't. The only thing which brings it around to this conversation that we kind of interspersed today was the biggest impact that I have from my children in terms of how it affects my life. I don't see it as harm, but it affects my life, is when you're traveling and I don't know if you're safe. That's the biggest thing about, because I don't, we haven't mentioned this, but I've been tracking your phone, as you know, since you have a phone. Since we found out that you can find my friends exists. So even as you lived in Thailand.
Actually, even before Find My Friends, you were tracking me with Life 360.
Was I? Do I remember the long ago? But I've always tracked you. When you lived in Thailand, and that was 100 years ago, right? I knew when you were in your apartment. I knew when you were at work. I knew, all I needed to know was you were back in your apartment at night. That meant you're safe. When you lived in Ireland, I knew when you were in your home. I knew when you were in school. I knew when you were walking to the park. But my most important thing is I knew you were home at night. Fine, you made it through the day. And I can't sleep until I know you're just home. So, this is how it impacts. Mara has a partner. She has a husband. David has a wife. If something happens that I need to know about, somebody's going to tell me. You're on your own. Nobody's telling me if you're not okay. So I need to know you're okay, which is why I do it. I don't track the other two, but I especially don't track the other two because they won't let me.
Well, also, just to bring it full circle, I went on 4 dates this week. So,
but what I need to ask you, because this is probably the end of this session, but I need to know. Last night, I know you had book club, right? You had your book club. Wasn't last night. I know you had something last night. I went to sleep. You weren't home. I woke up at 2:00 in the morning to pee. You weren't home. Where the hell were you?
Yeah.
It was
yesterday got a little off the rails.
You don't have to tell. I'm just letting you know.
No, we went
this morning. Wait. This morning when I woke up, the first thing I did was check. She's home. All right, whatever she did, I don't care what you did last night, as long as you made it home.
Last night got went a little different than had planned. My book club's tomorrow, and I still have not read my book for book club tomorrow. So that's where we're at.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Did you read the book? But now I have the answer. You said it's a short book. I've just sit down and read it.
Yeah, I'll have to do that this afternoon. But I have another
Is
meeting
it a good book?
This.
You don't know. You only
it's
read
interesting.
20 pages.
I only read 20 pages. It's interesting so far. We'll see. Okay, let's wrap up. This was nice. You need to think for next time more about your thoughts on threesomes, and we'll start with that next time.
Oh, my God. Oh, no.
Make a note for yourself. I'm Sarah.
I'm Shain.
And this has been Listen to My Mother.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a positive review and subscribing to us on your favorite platform.
And if you'd like the chance to listen to my mother, head to the link in our show notes, which is currently bit.ly/listen to my submission. That's bit.ly/listen to my submission and submit your question.
No question is off limits.
And don't forget to follow our journey on Instagram at Listen to My Mother or at whatsthepoint.therapy.
Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.
Bye, Mama.
Bye, baby.